What the f am I playing now? No Skin. This game is called No Skin. Alright, I'm sure this won't traumatize me in any way, shape, or form. Let me just go play it for a while.
Many hours later.
And I'm back. That was kind of fucked up. Makes you feel things. Don't like that. It's a weird, wild, chaotic mess of thoughts patched together with blood, duct tape, and pixel art, and it's a lot, alright? No Skin is a lot. If I had to give it a quick one-sentence pitch, I'd call it a horror, roguelite, turn-based RPG with genre-bending elements, but that doesn't really describe it well. In fact, it doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of the skin this game doesn't have. This is a game that wants you to get lost. It wants your mind to wander, and it wants you to piece it all together in one big, horrifying picture in the end. So if you'll allow my mind to wander, just a bit, I think I could tell you not just what No Skin is, but how No Skin feels. Indulge me. No Skin is a horror game. However, in a world where horror tends to mean Chuck E. Cheese rejects jump scaring you and blowing out your speakers, No Skin decides to try something different, a little more old school, a little more... Well, okay. In my second year of college, I stumbled down to the common lounge of my dorm in the middle of the night after a cram session and subsequent panic attack to find a student I had never interacted with before playing Silent Hill 2 on the original Xbox. I had never seen a Silent Hill game in action, and I had only vaguely known about the series from articles in gaming magazines. Paper gaming magazines. Dead tree format. I'm old. Fresh off my time with Ninja Gaiden on the same platform and giving my thumbs early onset arthritis, the idea of playing a protagonist that couldn't aim, couldn't fight, couldn't run faster than a brisk jog past the never-ending stream of horrifying and conveniently marketable monsters, looking at you, Pyramid Head, was a bit of an enigma to me. Why was this fun? I had just come from panicking about my own life, in all of its uncertainties. I already felt like the world was collapsing around me. Why on earth would I elect to feel so powerless while playing a video game? I mean, video games are escapism, goddammit. Like, what was going on here? Then he handed me the controller. I played Silent Hill 2 till 6 a.m. I made a friend that night. It is 6 a.m. now as I write this script, fresh off an uncountable number of runs of No Skin. I feel delirious. Sleep wants to overtake me, yet I'm wary because I know the weird, grotesque, fucked up imagery of this game will stick in my head, the same way that a behemoth of a man with a gigantic cleaver and a solid iron traffic cone for a face did all those years ago when I played Silent Hill 2. No Skin sticks with you. And that's because No Skin's horror is unique, or at least unique in that it's doing something new with something we've done before. It's not about jump scares, although there is a small sprinkling of those. It's more oppressive environmental horror, which is a lot like Silent Hill 2, or any Silent Hill for that matter. Any Silent Hill before, the new ones. And it does feel a little weird to compare a tiny little roguelite indie game to a horror great like Silent Hill, but it does have a lot in common. It posits a world that hates you, a world that is silently and eerily oppressive to your very existence, a world which slowly changes from something recognizable to something that is designed specifically for your torture, a world that doesn't want you dead, but wants you to suffer. And there's nothing you can do about it, because this isn't action-heavy horror. You may have a gun or a knife, but there's not a whole lot you could do with it. This isn't puzzle horror or stealth horror. This isn't even the jump scare horror of Freddy FNAF 5 Bear. No, you have to sit in this world that hates you and interact with it, slowly and methodically, because this is a roguelite. No Skin is a roguelite. If you're not playing and dying and playing again, are you even playing a roguelite? So you have to go through cycles that expose you to horrific elements over and over and over again. And the best thing about it is that it's always fresh and it never quite gets repetitive. That's a lot for any roguelite to do, let alone a horror roguelite. My fascination with the roguelite genre went hand in hand with my diagnosis of ADHD. My brain always needed my hands to be doing something, and absent a kick-ass fidget spinner, roguelites were the perfect scratch for that itch. They were simple, short, replayable bursts of gameplay that might go south at any given time. But who cares? Die, replay, and die again. And die, replay, and die again may not mean a whole lot if you're playing another roguelite in another genre. And we have so many flooding the indie sphere right now. We have roguelite auto-battlers, roguelite shoot-em-ups, roguelite dungeon crawlers, roguelite dating sims. Those last two are the same game, and it's called Hades. But die, replay, and die again takes on a different context when the game is a horror game. And we don't really see a whole lot of roguelite horror. In fact, the genre almost resists it. The last attempt was that black and white Junji Ito style game, World of Horror, and that fell off the mat pretty quick. There have been a lot of think pieces on why it's difficult to do roguelite horror, because roguelites by their nature are random, and it's hard to make something random scary. Or rather, it's hard to make something random horrific. Random jump scares are a dime a dozen, but the best horror games and movies of our time have meaning, and it's hard to make something random have meaning. Think about your favorite horror property. It probably has a complex, intricate web of lore that you have to navigate and pick through and eventually spend 12-hour nights on a wiki figuring out what that one can in that one scene meant. And it turns out that it was just someone forgetting their soda on set. All the best horrors have this lore. Yes, even Finetti Foobars. As you proceed further and further down the rabbit hole, as you learn more, you become more scared. You feel chills run down your back. You feel the noose tighten around your neck. It feels like the knowledge is forbidden. You're reading something or watching something you're not supposed to, discovering some hidden past, some horrible tragedy, some government conspiracy creating zombies, or some cult summoning a dark god, or even just going deeper and deeper into your own screwed up dreams like we did in Yume Nikki so many years ago. The very act of learning more things brings the horror to you. Knowledge is scary. Ignorance is bliss. And that's what No Skin understands, because roguelites may be random, but the thing that keeps you playing them is incremental progress. You get a small upgrade every new run that makes the next run just a little bit different. And while Vampire Survivors might dole out a new weapon, or Hades might throw a new Greek deity at you for you to get horny over, No Skin allows each run to unveil more and more about the strange, horrific world you're stuck in. Every run reveals more of why you're here. Every run reveals more lore. Lore is the incremental progress. Maybe one run you'll stumble into a room and find a strange cipher, and then remember you ran into someone that spoke in strange numbers and characters on an earlier run. So now you screen cap that cipher and try to make the same things happen so you could figure out what that character was saying. Maybe you'll progress just far enough to realize that everything, all the monsters, all the traps, all the strange mutated people that you've run into so far, can be talked with instead of fought. And talking reveals a little bit more information. Maybe you fight this fiery demonic beast, but it turns out he never wanted to hurt you in the first place. Then you have to think back. Did it attack me first? Did I attack it first? Maybe you end up on this Undertale train of thought where the biggest monster was man all along. And that would be, an expected twist. But then you run into yourself from another timeline or a character from another game, and you realize it's more complicated than that. No Skin is the type of game who will have you interact with a hangman only to find a word-for-word, letter-for-letter repost of a negative Steam review of the game's demo. And you have to sit there in the ambient horror and think for a second about whether this is somehow a hint to a puzzle or if it's just the developer letting off steam. Pun intended. Spoiler, it's both. There is a term for this sort of game, an unfolding game. It's a game that becomes more complex the more you play it. And in a way, No Skin is about peeling back layers and layers and layers so that situations that originally seemed simple become more complex. Its gameplay reflects this well enough. It is essentially a turn-based RPG, allowing you to choose every turn if you want to attack, defend, talk, use an item, or whatever. All you know is you wake up in an apartment with a couple of friends around you, and you wander from room to room. But you are not having a good time. It is heavily implied that you have taken something that is making you hallucinate. And every time you choose a room to travel to, the game tells you exactly what your odds are of encountering stuff. Maybe you'll find supplies, maybe you'll encounter a friend who wants to chat, or maybe you'll encounter that same friend, but their face has been cut off and they're running at you with a knife. Maybe you'll open a door that you didn't notice was there before, only to find a strange cult praying to a false god. Maybe you'll find a friendly group of frogs, or a fish that will sell you items. Or maybe you'll encounter a man with no skin. Sure, you're asking yourself what the heck is going on here, but you get the general gist of it. Survive the encounters and get deeper into the quote-unquote dungeon, that being the weird shadow world version of your own apartment. Your goal is to find the skin. A man with no skin says he has no skin, says it's your fault, and you need to find it. Go deeper, find it, then you win. The problem is, you don't. If you just play these runs all the way through, even if you are the most skilled player, you won't find the skin. You'll get a congratulatory screen and a credit roll, but there's still more to do. You have to go deeper. So you boot up another run, and as you play, things start to change. Not only do your friends become more and more monstrous, but what once came off as random, perhaps for the sake of a roguelite mechanic, now seems more planned. Why is the moon constantly brought up? What is the significance of the number 48? Why did my game crash? Wait a minute, my game crashed? Did my game just crash? It was just playing with me. So back in the days of the GameCube, there was a game called Eternal Darkness. It was well known for doing something that no other horror game really did at the time, and that was fuck with the player directly. It would screw up your controls, it would end the game early, it would make you feel like you were hallucinating by putting a fake volume meter up on the screen, or making it look like a fly was buzzing around, but the fly wasn't real. I literally smacked my CRT trying to kill that fake fly. No Skin is a love letter to horror games that followed in Eternal Darkness's footsteps. There is always a very slim chance that the game will screw with you. You'll end up in a menu that only allows you to delete your save data rather than load it. You'll encounter fake blue screens of death. You'll get early credit rolls, fake freezes, soft locks. You'll load into a different Steam game, a fake Steam game that No Skin made up. It uses all the tricks of the trade to screw with you, the player, directly. And that's neat. It could have just been neat. But then there's another layer underneath that. Because eventually you get an upgrade that allows you to go deeper than these pranks. And you find that there's a special store that can be accessed depending on what pranks you. And that special store contains upgrades and information. And then you could use that information to enter the game's Dream Diary mode. So now you're hunting down these special events and you have to constantly ask yourself, is my computer actually overheating, or is the game screwing with me? If the game's screwing with me, is it important, or is it a gag, or, oh right, the Dream Diary mode. I didn't even mention this. Those two words, Dream Diary, may sound familiar. It's the subtitle for a game I mentioned earlier, Yume Nikki. Yume Nikki is a classic RPG Maker game that has you delving into the dreams of its protagonist, a young girl named Madatsuki. It was revolutionary for its time, that time being circa 2004, when Shrek 2 was the highest grossing movie, and everyone was rushing to join this cool new site called Facebook. Madatsuki would fall asleep and find herself in a nexus of doors, each of which brought her to a different dream world, which got more and more abstract as you went further down. And sure enough, shortly after you complete your first few runs of No Skin, you're given access to Dream Diary modes. And would you look at that? You find yourself in a nexus of doors, each leading to a different, abstract, dreamlike location. This is one of the most delightful parts of No Skin, because just as you figure out that there's really nothing more to this game than turn-based combat, it flips its entire formula upside down on you. Now you're in a top-down RPG. Now you're in a 2D platformer. Now you're in a first-person game. Each one of these small mini-puzzles unlocks even more content in the main roguelite mode, and each upgrade reveals more and more lore. Each new piece of lore unlocks a new dream diary, and the cycle repeats itself. This is the gameplay loop of No Skin, and if this has interested you so far, I suggest turning this off now. Wait a minute, no, I don't suggest this. I need the money. I suggest muting this, minimizing the window, and letting the video play till its end so I could get those sweet, sweet YouTube dollars. My point is, I've been purposefully vague so far because this is one of those games that benefits from going in blind and slowly piecing together what's going on. But I do want to talk about what some of No Skin's deeper themes are. So now's the chance to skip to, I don't know, Edge. That's my editor, Edge. Edge, put a timestamp here for when it's safe for them to skip to. Like to my final thoughts or something. Now make the timestamp be in like a really fancy font. Now make it spin around. Now make it explode. Awesome, thanks, Edge. Alright, let's get into it. No Skin is a game about addiction. What I didn't tell you about that night that I first played Silent Hill 2 in college was that it came shortly after one of the most terrifying experiences I ever had. I went to a party and smoked
entirely legal substances.
Problem is, it turns out that those
entirely legal substances
were procured from someone I didn't know, and so they were laced with
also entirely legal but much worse substances.
Thank you, YouTube. Please don't demonetize me. In fact, Edge, I think at points in my playthrough there was full frontal pixel nudity, so if you run across any of that, be sure to cover it up with tasteful stills of Nicolas Cage's face. Anyway, this was one of the scariest nights of my life. I did not know where I was, or at least not always. I faded in and out of the world around me. There was no real barrier between my thoughts and my actions. At one point, I'd find myself in the hallway of my dorm, only to find myself next standing in a shower, half-dressed, and then find myself lying on the floor of my room. I would blink and it would be morning, and then blink again and it was night. And I would wonder if a whole day had passed, or if I had just imagined the morning coming. It felt like I was face blind, but just temporarily face blind. I couldn't tell who people were based on their features. I couldn't see features at all. I couldn't tell if anyone around me was real. I did not feel in control of myself, and I was scared. I vividly remember locking the window of my room, because I thought that if I had the errant urge to jump out the window, nothing would stop me at this point. This trip wrecked my brain. That morning, I had to read an assignment in my creative writing class, and I do not remember reading it. I was still not sober. Although apparently I did get an A, so I guess I didn't do too bad. The only thing I do remember was the random flashing of memories and experiences from room to room from the night before, and then finally and suddenly finding myself laying down on the cool grass between the halls of my campus, staring at the sky and thinking, man, I am so glad to be sober. No Skin does a fantastic job of simulating that experience, and it's heavily implied that you are going through exactly that in the game. Sometimes it allows you to be lucid, wandering around real rooms, talking to real people. But sometimes your garage holds a staircase to a ritual room where a man in a deer mask stares you down. Sometimes the game can be frustrating and you get into these periods where you fail runs over and over and over again when you just don't know what to do and you think to yourself, I just want things to make sense. And it will let things make sense. It always gives you an option to go back to the surface level, where things make sense, and there aren't any monsters, just people. But there aren't any answers on that surface level. The answers lie beneath the skin, and the No Skin man wants his skin, and you die if you don't find his skin. Where is his skin? So, back to the roguelite you go. Back to the world where your best friend has a snake coming out of her skull. Back to where angels whisper in your ear, asking you, what have you done? Back to where you have to use a very specific item in a very specific place to get the game to crash on purpose in order to make progress. Back to confusion, to distortion, to helplessness. When I first played Silent Hill 2, I didn't like it because it reminded me of how helpless I was. When I had something in my body fucking up my brain that I never wanted there in the first place, I felt like the world was trying to kill me. But I kept playing Silent Hill 2 because that feeling of powerlessness was familiar. And I felt if I could survive that one night, the worst night I ever had in college, then I could progress a couple more hours in this horror game. I mean, what threat is Pyramid Head compared to a bad trip on
entirely legal substances?
This is the experience of No Skin. It makes you feel powerless, and it makes that powerlessness feel familiar. Even if you have never taken
entirely legal substances
in your life. And that may not be for you, to be honest. If you don't like searching for answers and playing weird meta ARGs, No Skin may just be frustrating. If you don't like feeling confused and trying to meander your way through disjointed pieces of information that barely make sense, No Skin may feel unwelcomely disorienting. If you don't like trying to find deeper meaning in games with a minimalist aesthetic, then honestly, No Skin is just a numbers game. You try to do more damage to the opponent than they do to you. That's it. But that gun that you bought because it had slightly more ammo and an improved crit chance, that's also what you need to break the bloody mirror in the hallway. And what's behind that mirror? And why are you afraid that you'll see her face again? So maybe it's not just a numbers game, if you don't want it to be. As I said at the beginning, No Skin is a lot of things, all at once. It deals with topics of loss, suicide, drug use, and at times it feels like these heavy topics are just sprinkled on top of the game's horror aesthetic. But that's also because No Skin doesn't want to tell you a story that easily gets from point A to point B. It wants you to be in the shoes of its protagonist, wandering, confused, and vulnerable. It wants to make something that is so repetitive, so normal, become so disorienting. Sometimes it succeeds, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes an enemy will spike a random chance, ending a run early, and making you turn off the game in frustration. But other times, the game will make you remember that girl that broke your heart, and how you could barely get out of bed afterwards. And other times, the game makes you remember when you did that one stupid thing and lost a friend forever. And then the game gates your progress until you read the notes of one character who's struggling with depression. And those notes feel all too familiar. It may feel tacky at times that these heavy subjects are attached to stats like heart meters and drop rates, but that's the perfect way to get them to worm themselves into your brain. Because my brain just needed my hands to be doing something. And more than once I found myself torn away from whatever other thing I was watching or listening to while playing No Skin in the background, stopping, staring in dead silence and thinking to myself, what have I done? There aren't a lot of games that make you feel like that. I think that's what No Skin is trying to elicit from the player. A feeling of lost possibility. Like I said, at times you'll run into characters from other games. These are heavily implied to be projects that the creator, NoIsoft, never got to finishing. They just stay in limbo here, in No Skin, as playable characters with cool new mechanics or special enemies with plot lines that go nowhere on purpose. Again, that may be frustrating to you, but it's supposed to feel horrific if you could put yourself in the shoes of these characters. No Skin doesn't want to tie itself neatly up in a bow. Sometimes you just don't get a satisfying answer. That's the reality underneath the layer of fantasy of simple people in simple places giving each other simple smiles. It's a tangle, horrible, gnarled, gory, vulnerable mess of connections without any skin. I made a friend that night in college when I played Silent Hill 2. A friend I went on to go to conventions with. A friend that I did stand-up with. A friend that I played Rock Band on the weekends with. A friend who I haven't spoken to in about 20 years. This is a friend whose last words to me weren't very kind. We were going through a lot back then, and to be honest, the friendship wasn't great for either of us. And even though we had a falling out, we always said we would connect again someday, when we were ready. We never did. We were never ready. To be honest, I wouldn't even know how to begin to contact him now. And after the 10 or so hours it took me to roll credits on No Skin, I thought of that friend. I thought, yeah, he'd probably like this. I wonder where he is now. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, game's good. It's a small game, a short game, a disjointed game. It's a game that at times can feel like it's sniffing its own farts, but it's a game that kept me playing till 6 a.m. because I just had to know a little bit more. I had to do one more run. I had to immerse myself in this world that hated me because it was the only way to get answers. And also, it's like $6, so there's no reason not to try it when it costs less than a Wendy's Triple Baconator. Overall, I really liked it. It's not AAA Game of the Year bait, but it's a solid little experience that made me think things, feel things, and I think that that's valuable. And that's why I wrote this. Maybe a little bit to review the game, maybe a little bit to reflect on what the game made me feel. But a lot of it to dunk on Freddo Finetto's Pizza Betto. Up top, Edge hit the explosion gif again. I want to give a big thank you to my patrons for supporting me and allowing me to experiment with long-form content. A very special shout out to patrons in my party member tier, Lycanian, TB Skyen, and Tuck. And a big thank you to my editor Edge for helping bring this project together. If you like this, let me know in the comments if you want to see more weird and introspective game review stuff. Follow me on YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, Blue Sky, and all that good stuff. And I will see you when I play another weird f***ing game.